All right, I'd like to call today's Parks and Open Space Committee meeting to order. Anybody in courtesy of the floor? Seeing none, we can go into the DNL Trail Dry Run Bridge project.
Yeah, go ahead. Both of the presentations that you'll hear tonight is projects that kind of been in the works a little bit. The first one is a DNL project, and actually both of them are tied to the DNL National Heritage Corridor. Lauren Golden with DNL will talk about a project within the borough of Northampton along the actual trail, the DNL Trail, which was actually one of the identified trail gaps in that 2013 LVPC study. And Mike Cookitz with the Northern Lehigh Recreation Authority will talk about a broad-based economic plan, business plan, wayfinding signage that they're doing up in the Slatington and Walnutport areas. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick little thing with that while Lauren passed it out, and I'll let them discuss it.
Hello, thank you for having me. I thought I'd keep the information fairly concise. So what I've provided you with is a map that shows the location where Resolution 55-215 for the Norbath to DNL connector construction happened. There was a ribbon cutting, I'm not sure if any of you attended, in June this year, so that was very exciting. That was both one of those identified regional priority gaps as well as a statewide priority gap. The borough of Northampton is amazing and managed to complete that project unbelievably under budget. And so being that they have another statewide and regional priority gap within their municipal borders, they have graciously offered to reallocate the remainder of Resolution 55-215 for the Norbath to the Dry Run Bridge project. So the rest of the map shows what is known as Gap 40 or Gap 5 if you're on the statewide or the regional plan. And whoever came up with the gaps made 3 separate projects, all one gap. So I included that gap so that you can kind of keep this project in the context of the greater gap. So Dry Run is part A of the gap. A broken storm pipe in North Catasauqua is part B. That was finished at the end of summer last year, so that's actually closed. And the Catasauqua Creek crossing, PennDOT has agreed to incorporate that into their Race Street expansion. They're replacing the road bridge across the Caddy Creek on Lehigh Street, and they'll be adding a 3rd pedestrian lane onto the bridge that the DNL will be able to use, which is Lehigh County agreed to maintain it. That was really exciting. That happened last year. So that leaves Dry Run as the last component of this 3-part gap. And the single sheet kind of gives you a quick rundown of this particular piece, the development happening to the south of it. And Dry Run is essentially the piece of infrastructure that will connect the trail improvements happening south of it all the way to Catasauqua to the already improved section of trail that runs north currently to Jim Thorpe and by the end of this year all the way up to Luzerne County. So we were fortunate to get the permits to build a bridge in the floodway or floodplain this year and put the project out for bid, knowing that the DNL had $210,000 from DCED Greenways Trails and Rec grant. And the bids came in a little bit higher than we had funding available. The highest bid was $791,000. I know. And part of the issue is that we are attempting to go through the active Copley Northampton Bridge construction project in order to access Dry Run. So our low bid contractor was able to coordinate access with PennDOT's contractor for a limited time period. So we have jumped the major hurdle of access, and with Northampton Borough's help have hope of jumping the major hurdle of funding. So that's what brings me here tonight. if you were to take 4th Street into the woods and across the train tracks, you'd be at Dry Run.
So that means that if I was to go from, let's say, 21st Street in Northampton, along the walking, I couldn't use my bike.
You can use your bike now.
In Northampton, or
Yes, sir.
I could go all the way down to, the Dry Run gap. So that's where I would stop.
Well, Copley Northampton Bridge does have the trail temporarily closed, but without that impact, yes, you could go to Dry Run, and then you would have to take your shoes off and do a little wading, climb down a ravine.
I'm just curious, Laura. Thank you for this. And this is nice. I appreciate that. Okay. The bridge in the floodplain. Okay. The bridge in the floodplain. Okay. That doesn't quite go together. How do you guys manage to do that? How do you get accepted for that? Or is that something that's
The short of it is that DEP will consider applications for work within this would be out of the, and I always confuse them. One is the floodway, like the 2 to 5 year flood. One is the flood plain, the 100-year flood. Right, and then they expect that the piece of infrastructure will be built substantially enough to withstand the hydrology expected for the 100-year flood. So. You'll note on the single sheet that all this began in 2012. So getting that permit took 14 months, 15 months, and a number of revisions in the design. But we do have that permit in hand, and those permits I actually submitted to Brian as proof that we could do this. Yep.
And that's not a vehicle bridge, right? That's what I mean.
This one it's a pedestrian bridge, but this one was designed to accommodate emergency vehicles if need be.
Okay.
For just not all the time,
Every traffic,
but if there's a maintenance need or, God forbid, someone's hurt.
Or maybe Mount Bethel could use it.
I don't.
They could.
Thank you.
John, do you have anything?
No, I think Mr. Werner covered most of my concerns as to how you were able to get this and what were the obstacles to building in the floodplain. I think you've answered that. I guess then my question would be, assuming we approve this, what would be your next step towards completing this trail in its entirety?
Well, I have the bid here in hand.
Oh.
So I would call the contractor and award the project tomorrow so he could secure that access, because that has me very nervous. And from there, we've already initiated design work through North Catasauqua, who has the DCNR grant for the construction. And the plan is to finalize whatever design work needs to be done in order to submit that permit. Expect that the permit's going to take a year and a half again. And with the submission of the permit, we'll have reasonable construction estimates. And so we'll be able to see, is the funding sufficient? Do we need another grant application? We can then begin to negotiate that. Lehigh County, I spent the last 3 days with them exchanging emails, applying for PennDOT's TA set-aside funding to construct the trail to either side of Race Street, which would get us built down to Hanover Canal Park. So if you kind of follow that, there's an improved section there. So that would be Hanover Canal Park all the way north to the Lehigh-Northampton County line. That's what they're planning to construct.
Okay. And the remaining piece from the Canal Park down to, what is it, below American Parkway? I know that bridge is finished, that took a while. Is that then the next step?
Correct. We've already started preliminary conversations with PennDOT. A large portion of that is PennDOT right away along Dauphin Street, and then additionally at Kimmett's Lock underneath American Parkway. Working with LVPC, we're looking at doing, it's actually a big Lehigh Valley region master plan to develop trail on both sides of the river between Hamilton Street and 329. This is the densest populated section of the DNL, and we feel that with trail on both sides of the river, we'll have really great alternative transportation options for anybody looking to get back and forth across the river, possibly for work or going to see their grandmother. You know, I live on one side of the river, she lives on the other. Whatever the need may be, in addition to the recreation opportunities, this is one transportation opportunity that we think is a little bit different than the rest of the corridor because of the dense population.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you had plans to continue, because there's nothing more frustrating
I'm not going to stop.
than spending money and things grinding to a halt. So that was, where I was going.
I
I'm glad to
understand.
hear there's a plan to continue to move forward.
John, from the Guy Valley Planning Commission perspective, like you said, they're all over this also, as far as time involved there. But I'm kind of sort of stuck on the numbers here. So we're going to be, you're asking $130,000, right? $130,000.
Correct.
And we have the DNL, DCED, Greenway Trails and Rec Grant, they're giving you 210, right?
Correct.
And this open space reallocation for North Bath Trail, that's because Northampton Borough was efficient in that extension down to 10th Street.
Correct. So
They
Refunded it back to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and they refunded it back to us, yeah.
And then this B&L William Penn Foundation, we had got a gas grant for 5 blocks. Okay. so
would make up the difference.
would make up the difference.
So we're actually not spending any more money than we thought of as a whole. We're just taking off of one program and sending it over to the other one because they were under budget.
That's where I'm getting my, I know, I just don't, I don't see, where's that? So this
That-
is a picture, like dry run bridge bounding breakdown. So we have the 210 for the DNL, DCMD.
Yep.
We have the open space of 127, 232. We have that 5,000, and plus the 130,000 would equal, it's more than it would more than equal that 342,000.
No, so the 210 plus the 127 and the 5 is the 342.
So
That
Hayden-
127 is our 130.
Right. Hayden, what we're doing is we're taking the 200,000 that was allocated for the Norbath Trail construction. They only spent 72,000 out of that 200. So that 127 is going to go back into the Act 13 fund, which correlates with one of our agenda items, the amendment of Resolution 55 2015. In there, you'll see the exact amount, 72 something. That amount is the amount that closes out that project, closes out that resolution. Then the 127, I'm adding an additional 20, couple hundred in case of signage or something, that in case this project needs to get a little bit more. 130 is a clean cut number. That's where it'll be retaken out of the Act 13 funds. So we already committed 200,000 for the one project, which was the Norbath Trail project. That came in way under budget because Northampton Borough's Public Works Department was very efficient on that end.
And they didn't charge for their in-kind for labor and
They
stuff.
actually kept
yeah.
that in-house.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Okay.
I mean, perfect honest with you, maybe, but not so. I don't agree with where, but I never would have got that from reading it. Maybe I could put my file in, so. I
It's-
get it now. Basically,
right.
we're reallocating money that we've already allocated.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
And getting 2 projects done.
Right, with one, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and really, a lot of it is the benefit of Northampton Borough is so they can charge for the in-kind use of their labor equipment, and they did not. So that's really where the saving came in.
I asked them if they would build all our trail projects, but they
I want that the opening ceremony and the special extension of some of these buildings.
Mhm.
And I was very impressed with the borough manager. That was his name.
Yeah, Leroy, yeah.
I don't know his name, but he was very good. And I know he had the guys out there. I'm not surprised that it did not. He's trying to do it.
Mhm.
He has been, I can't think of his name, but I will tell you that his name has come up so many times.
Leroy Brooks.
What is it?
Leroy Brooks.
Leroy, yeah, Leroy. He has quite a reputation. I'm just glad he's living out there. He's the same programs and also medical back.
Sure.
I have a question if I may, if everyone else is done. I don't say that I won't ask another question. I'm sitting here, I'm saying, you had a bid of $700,000. I guess this is the low bid. That's a lot of difference. Does that worry you at all? Are you okay with that? I mean, I'm okay with the low bid, but my concern is, that's a.
Have we seen the work of the low bid before?
Yeah.
They tend to price things higher than everyone else, and additionally, sometimes a contractor will submit a bid, but intentionally price themselves out
Sure.
for whatever reason. So
Council member right now, playing Ken Kraft, who's in the trades and construction, and what he would say is, John does this, I'm surprised John didn't bring it up, he said, if that number is extremely lower than the bid, or the other bid, I would see sometimes it's a flag goes up as to whether or not that can be handled.
I know exactly what you mean. And our initial construction estimate from the engineer was only $150,000. I found out afterwards that the engineer neglected to take into account the access issues. And so when I compared the engineering estimate for the bridge itself, the low bidder was on par with that. The other contractor was much higher, and he seemed to be kind of complicating something. I try.
All right. Any questions on this? We'll move on. Okay.
I'll move to recommend it to the full council then.
All right. Walnut Port Trail and town signage. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Don't mind if I'm hobbling here a little bit. I got a pretty bad sprained ankle, so I might be teetering back and forth. But thank you for having me. My name is Mike Cookitz. I am the Executive Director for Northern Lehigh Recreation Authority. It's a multi-municipal, multi-county agreement up in the Northern Lehigh area. I started in August of last year, so I've been there just about a year. When I originally started, the Borough of Walnut Port and Northampton County was not on board. However, with a lot of the progress they saw us making very quickly and early on, they joined us, and I'm happy to say that we now are assisting Walnut Port in everything parks, trails, and recreation related. So I probably don't even need this slideshow, but I threw it together, so I will go through it with you here. So again, I was brought on board to assist with everything parks, trails, recreation related in Walnut Port, Slatington, and Washington Township, which are both in Lehigh County. And there's also a community center project. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that. It is actually in Lehigh County, but it has been an ongoing project for about 15 years. The actual land is there, the foundation's in, the walls are up, the roof is on. They kind of hit a stopping point, and the volunteers that were trying to see this project through are starting to age out a little bit, so that's another big task of mine as well. I will say that, I'm running programs for the residents up there, and they are taking off like wildfire. It's unbelievable. I am running a senior stretch class at the Diamond Fire Company in Walnut Port, and just 2 days ago, I had a woman come in and say, I heard this class was great, I want to sign up, me and my husband. It was my 89 and 90th senior to register for this class. We're averaging 50 to 60 seniors twice a week exercising over in this. It is not. It is not.
I was refraining from asking that, actually. It was in my head, but I was like, I'm not going to ask that.
If I go over there, they're not going to let me leave, though. They're going to say I need to, participate in what they're doing. That's it. Yep. But
I'm sorry, Mike, where was the site again? Is it Walnut Port you're doing this?
correct. Yep. This program's in Walnut Port specifically.
Not intended, just wanted to know.
Well, I can give you the address if you'd like to come and give it a try. And just the amount of recreation and the amount of trail usage in our area it's mind-blowing. I got a number from the DNL that there was over 24,000 residents that came through our trailhead last year. So what I'm working with on the DNL right now is to pilot a program called the Trail Town designation. I'm working with them to hopefully, we'll see, become the first ever DNL designated trail town. What that means is Walnut Port's not a big commercial town. It's not thriving, I'll say, at this point in time. So one of the biggest resources we have are the trails. There are a number of trails in the northern Lehigh area that are heavily used. You could drive by it on a Wednesday afternoon at 11 o'clock. There's going to be cars in our trailhead parking lots. I mean, it's already a destination. It's just not known as a destination. So one thing we're looking to do as the Trail Town project progresses is how do we get those 24,000 people to go up into Walnut Port and see what the town has to offer as well. I'm sure you all know that the grocery store up in northern Lehigh closed down many years ago, so Thompson's Meat Market is kind of crucial to that town. That's only within a half a mile of the trail. So any trail users coming down, if they want homemade beef jerky and snack sticks and all that kind of stuff, if they're doing the whole 165 miles, a lot of them will come right through and not even know that it's there because we don't have the appropriate signage and things that we need to have there to let all the trail users know what amenities are right up in town for them. So working with the DNL right now on just what can we do to make it more friendly. So if you look at the top picture on the left, and this one is across the river, but it's when people come through, they just see the side of a building. Whereas I want it to say, welcome to Northern Lehigh, a DNL trail town. Welcome, make it more inviting, make it more friendly so they know where they are, they can orient themselves. And then when they get up to our amenity maps and our wayfinding signage, they can say, oh wow, the Walnut Port Canal Association's right over there. I didn't know that. And they can cross the bridge and see the canal, see the towpath, and again, venture up into town. That's kind of the ultimate goal of this. We're looking at a long-term plan as well to incorporate some sort of lodging. And trail towns aren't anything new. The Great Allegheny Passage does it out on the western end. They go from Columbia, Maryland to Pittsburgh. And it's every 10, 15, 20 miles, there's a designated trail town, and it'll tell you what amenities are there, what shops are there, what lodging's available. So for those real outdoor enthusiasts, they can plan a night trip, they can plan a weekend, they can plan a vacation around it. Not everybody likes to go to Disney World, This is a destination is what we're looking to create. So again, why Northern Lehigh? Well, we held a public meeting in June, and it was extremely well attended, and it had nothing but positive things to say about becoming a trail town and trying to, again, get these residents up into Walnut Port and into Slatington. So, I mean, you can see there just the number of trails that we have coming into Northern Lehigh is kind of unheard of. I mean, the Appalachian Trail, Slate Heritage Trail, a section of the 9/11 National Memorial, the DNL, we have the Lehigh Gap Nature Center, which is an incredible resource to have up there. The Canal Spur Trail and Towpath. We have trailheads both sides of the river, boat access. A new boat access was put in Walnut Port recently, and soon the Northern Tier Trail, hopefully, if everything goes as planned. On top of that, the bridge up in Jim Thorpe that the DNL is completing, Jerry doing the outdoor center in Lehighton. We're going to start seeing even more traffic. So that number that I gave to you is just going to keep growing and growing and growing. So we're trying to prepare for that and take advantage of that to the best of our ability. So the first thing we're doing is just some simple wayfinding and welcome signage. This project's actually already approved. We had the funding for this. This is going to happen October 21st. There's some new signage going in both on the Slatington and Walnut Port side that the DNL is coming up to put in. We're going to update all the amenity maps to make them current. I'm working with them to get an updated business listing, phone numbers, addresses, the whole nine. So why I am here is after our public meeting and the DNL surveys came, I was awarded a $2,000 grant for the Walnut Port side, and I was asked to It's a matching grant. I was asked to find $2,000 to match that, just to start things off, to do some beautification, to do some access. I met with some landscapers just last week. I haven't gotten their bids quite yet, but they know what my $4,000 budget is on each side of the river, and we're looking to, again, start small. In October, we're going to have a visitor center open. It's going to be manned by Lehigh Valley Chamber members, DNL staff, myself. We're all working together on this project, and even business owners that are involved. They're in the Main Street Merchants group up there, and they're interested in getting this project going. So all of October, Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 1, we're going to have a visitor center, updated rack cards, maps. We'll be handing out granola bars and stickers and just getting to really get people excited about it. You'll probably see the press release should be printed here in the next day or two. The visitor center? The visitor center itself will be in Slatington, at the trailhead right there. Correct. But and it's a very unique area, being that Northampton County and Lehigh County are split right there. The students in Walnutport cross the bridge to go to school in Lehigh, and it's a very, I mean, you could throw a rock and hit one county to the other. They're that close. So it's a unique area that has, for better or worse, it has its pluses and challenges because of that. But
On Walnutport, you're with me. We've seen that there's that one house that's really unique along the canal there. He has like the wood carving. I don't know if it's a site there or not, but right along the canal, on the side of his house, he has a walkway to the back, and there's like a wood carving of like the horse-drawn. It's so I'm not sure if he's got that open to the public or I've just seen it a couple of times campaigning going around there. Yeah, but it's a real impressive site. I'm just guessing there's got to be hundreds of hours of labor put into carving that out back there. It's pretty. The north side, and like maybe just, I don't know, maybe 5 houses up, I think, right up from the road is on the Walnutport side. Yeah, so you go to the door, and then there's a walkway, like, I don't know if it's a garage or something, there's like a walkway towards the back. And the doorway, I think, actually is in the middle of that. So you kind of walk in there, and you can see it. It's real impressive.
Not seen that.
Yeah.
I'm going to now.
And I think it's an older guy. I've seen him once, and he's always had like a daughter. So.
There you go.
And but I definitely would probably worthwhile to either make it a site or see it or something. I don't know if you'd want everyone seeing it or not, but.
Well, I'm going to look into it. I absolutely will. And even like the Walnutport Canal lock tender's house, that used to be open on the weekends and visitors could come in, and it's not been that way for a little bit. We've seen kind of a reduction in offerings, I want to say, and I've only been there a year, but I'm working with them to make sure we can get that back open, and we can make sure to tell people about where it is, that they're that close to it, because again, if people are coming through the DNL, they don't even, some of them might not know anything about it. So that's what these funds are going to do. It's really about promoting what's in town, what's up in Walnutport. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the Northern Tier Trail that Brian worked on.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, I was at that meeting this morning. Exciting stuff, I'll tell you what. And to be at the end of it, I said we should call it the Walnut Portland Trail, but that didn't go too far. We're going to stick with Northern Tier. There you go. I am not.
I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm saying it's a really cool half marathon that runs the trail from.
The DNL half
Yeah,
marathon.
yeah.
So we start in Slatington and go down to Northampton Canal Street Park.
Yep.
But there's a walk and a run category. It's the only walk one in the region. So.
Do you run it?
I don't. I work it. I'm the finish line coordinator.
Well,
No, I would love to walk it. I'm not much of a runner.
last time I saw you at the ribbon cutting.
Yes, he was about a week old. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to keep him quiet.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, no, actually, they had their Bike for the Bridge event not too long ago, and I was down on the trailhead helping out and passing out waters and all that, but I didn't participate in that one. We'll see how the ankle's doing in November here.
I do
Mhm.
So much going on with the groups that are contributing.
Yeah.
The Walnut Port, Portland,
Yep.
all the SPAC, Stockton County, everybody, they're all trying to.
Well,
Absolutely.
it was nice at the Northern Tier feasibility meeting earlier today. I mean, almost all the municipalities, all along there were represented. They sent someone in and stuff, so they're all real engaged. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and even on a smaller scale, I mean, for that fact, to have Walnut Port, Slatington, and Washington Township working together because none of them can afford to improve their recreation services on their own. They just don't have the budget for it. But to work together to do that, this past year, I partnered up with Northern Lehigh School District right away. We offered summer rec for the kids. I had the staff to have 80 kids. It filled up like that. I mean, again, the need there is not lacking, I'll say. So. Mhm. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Just one quick follow-up on that. You mentioned the lock tender's house.
Yes.
What kind of shape is that in?
To be honest with you, I've yet to arrange the time to get it in there. I'm sure you've probably all heard of Doug Bear, who recently passed an unfortunate accident. He was in charge of the Walnut Port Canal Association, and things have really kind of slowed down there the last few months. And prior to that, I mean, it was just trying to get summer programming and spring programming, and I just haven't gotten over there. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Lauren and I both went through it before. It's well restored, and you can tour up to the second floor and everything set up like it would have been. And that was what time period? Early canal, so 1830s, 1840s.
Okay.
They spend pride and joy there, so they've done a great job of keeping it up. It's just the marketing and getting people there seems to be what I heard was the problem.
That's it.
Getting people into it.
Yeah, then my follow-up was going to be, I believe we've given hotel tax grant monies in the past. Did they apply this year for?
I just slipped a note to him on this. I said, that's why I brought up Tim and Mark. This might help them out with, the bottom line.
Sure.
Grants, I don't think I remember. I don't remember. You can talk to Tim, Rowan or Mark Parkin in regard to the SIP program, the hotel tax programs.
Sure.
That offer things for when you have, offer people to use throughout the area and involved in visitors.
Sure.
And stuff like that. They offer nice grants.
Okay.
We have hotel tax money
Mhm.
that we do, and we got to do that, we, help for.
Generate hotel stays, yeah.
So this to me would be, I don't want to prejudge what we should say, because I may not even be here, but this would be something that. I will.
Sure.
I'll be here.
Well, and I almost see the lock tender's house as it's not going to be labeled as a visitor center. It's going to be called the lock tender's house. But I almost see it as the visitor center on the Walnut Port side of things.
Well, I think it fits well in the confines of the title that they contribute with, and
Yeah.
$2,000, $5,000,
Mhm.
whatever seems
Sure.
you have to talk to them to get the forms for
Yep.
the program.
Will do.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
No problem. I think that the key is maintaining the structure. What we see is that when these buildings are left unused or just left alone, they tend to deteriorate,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't want to see that happen. So that's why I asked the question.
Absolutely.
And I would, next year, when the hotel tax grant program applications come out,
Mm-hmm.
you might want to look into it, because I do have some recollection of grant money going there at some point,
Sure.
but
Thinking of the Freemansburg Lock Tender's house?
maybe it's Freemansburg. I can't recall.
Recently there
Yeah.
with the hotel tax.
I was
grant
going to make an
values
announcement
for the-
for Freeman,
Yeah.
we have funded that.
Okay, so there is precedent right there. So
Sure.
I think you've got an attraction there that might be eligible for funding.
Absolutely.
I don't know, how much, but I think it'll be eligible for something
Sure.
next year.
Sure. And I just found out about this in June when we had the public meeting, and Jeannie Bear was there, and she said, yeah, we just don't have the marketing, and people just don't come anymore. So that's kind of when I kind of switch gears there.
That's cool.
Yes. Signage and beautification that we're looking to do.
For the match that they need, right?
For the match for the match that we need for the other $2,000 we've secured. You can see some of the, just picture there. We just need to kind of spruce it up and make it more inviting on the Walnut Port side of things.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I'll renovation of the, that was under the SIP program. Petersburg renovation of Rock Tender's house, and we gave, that request was $50,000, so only if you
Okay.
up. But I want to do that one, that was so.
Okay.
And that was under the SIP. I don't know, 50,000. Well, that's what was requested, it doesn't say, I don't know, but I'll have
That-
to find for you.
Sure, and I'll look into it. I appreciate it.
Yes, SIP, CIPP.
Good spelling.
It's not an acronym somehow.
Yeah, it is. Community investment.
Sure, sure. Excellent.
Are you also the second one that, second
No,
I am not.
That was what we, Norvat,
that's the reduction of the 210 to the 72.
Yes, yeah. I had some more, but we kind of covered it just in dialogue, so.
Did we take it too far off track? I don't know.
No, we're
No,
fine.
we
I didn't, but that's okay. Like I said, we covered it in dialogue anyhow, so.
We didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's quite all right. I mean, we've talked about this, and it just kind of came up, like I keep saying, in our dialogue. So, I mean, some of the goals that we have is to increase the marketing promotion, which we've just discussed, and we have some statistical goals that we're looking to reach with the DNL as far as seeing a 5% increase in visitors once we start to make these improvements, if not more. I'm working with the chamber to get some more events happening at the trailhead. I'm even approaching the boroughs to see if we want to do some sort of sunset concert series down by the canal and all kinds of other things. So I'm really just trying to get the residents out and trying to make use of the beautiful area that they have there that they've kind of not made. They've made use of it, but I'm just looking to kind of build on that and really make use of it. So.
like you said on Wednesday, I'm retired. I know what I'm doing. I'm actually going, what are you doing? But there's always something.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, one of the discussions we're having is that parking at the Slatington Trailhead can be an issue. On a beautiful Friday or Saturday or Sunday, there's people that show up and can't find a parking space, and it's a good problem, but it's still a problem. So,
Do you park on, do you have to make penis split in the back? What's that?
Doesn't matter.
Have it back,
I have not, no.
Chamber of Commerce up there.
Okay.
Great. Jump on this.
Okay.
Down to
Yeah.
the-
Yeah, and Discover Lehigh Valley is another entity to reach out to.
Yes, actually, I had a night hike, community night hike. I didn't know if 10 people would show up. Filled the parking lot. Over 60 people, and Discover Lehigh Valley was one of those 60. You know, people with strollers, seniors, kids, everybody in between. It was fantastic. So, yeah, just over 60. We have
Yeah.
another 2 night hikes coming up, September 28th and October 26th. So, yes.
There is an example, Wind Gap is an Appalachian.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
That is an example. So you're saying that Walnut Port, is it Walnut Port that you're looking at as the first BNL?
We are looking to make Northern Lehigh.
Northern
It's
Lehigh.
yeah, they're so intertwined and
Okay.
ingrained that we're looking to have Northern Lehigh as the DNL's first ever trail town.
For two boroughs.
Correct.
we need better lodging in Wind Gap though for the trail.
Oh no. I'm
I'm sorry you prepared this presentation that we're just talking.
I'll just go.
I'm figuring we got leeway
go.
today because the human services canceled that for us, so we got time to kill.
There you go.
Let me add something. First of all,
Yeah.
congratulate you for being proactive, and you've done a wonderful job also.
Thank you.
So,
Poor
also,
Brian.
I have to tell you just a real fast little story. This reminds us of something that happened. I was traveling many years ago when I was working in Korea. And I went through a small town in Rochester, New York, and there was a little tiny meat market. And someone said, "You got to stop it.
Mhm.
That's meat." Okay?
Yep.
It's called Speedy. You ever hear Speedy? Okay,
Mhm.
Speedy. Never heard. Okay?
Yep.
So I go up and I get a jar of this soaked in saturated meat. It's in a jar. I pay $10 for it to take it home. And I thought nothing of it. Brought it home, put it in the house. Neighbors came. Everybody came. The next week, when I was traveling up to the New York regions, the wine regions,
Mhm.
I had 7 requests for stop. I mean, I would have had to take a truck. But then they began to travel to get that, just for that, to make a day of it.
Mhm.
Which is interesting.
Yep.
You wouldn't think a jar of meat would make people
Make a day of it, yeah.
for a trip, and it did.
Wow.
So yes, your Thompson's meat markets and your Spees,
Yep.
they do have an impact on the food.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
Thompson's
I
is,
applaud you for your work, and the baby's fabulous.
Yeah.
Keep staying.
That's okay. Want to sit here? I'll take.
Oh, no, he
No, I-
prefers to
Do it.
stay.
I did that all day today.
Now, all these trails and small things are great. You know, obviously, I spent a lot of time home with the kids in the summertime, and you know, Dorney Park to bring a couple of kids there is several $100 to drop in
Yeah.
to go in there. Oh yeah, I mean, so it's like $50-$60 a person, plus parking, plus eat, but you go out there and hike around and stretch off, and bring my dog out there too. So.
I learned a quick thing today that I feel like if you're looking to increase food, it's like fair warning. So apparently last year, Lehigh Gorge State Park had 100,000 visitors. These numbers come from DCNR. And Delaware Canal State Park had 1 million visitors. And so we're working on connecting the DMV. So get ready.
okay.
And of course, I think the good thing that goes with this is, like we've seen when we went out to Lake Leisure, is the business opportunity side. When there's the kayak rentals, bike rentals, and shops with the sandwiches, shop in there and stuff. I mean, all that comes with it.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, just generally speaking, the crowd that comes in through that is, a more respectful crowd, and less cleaning up and damage or to go after.
How many buses from New York and New Jersey visit our- Did I bring that up?
Like, you need to work with the businesses so that they're bike friendly yet. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
they have bike racks.
Oh, no, yeah, we are working,
Down in the Slatington, you want to go someplace to eat.
Yep.
You gotta try it.
yep.
Okay, we're gonna use your bike and you gotta, if they're friendly, you got the signage that brings them there, they gotta, all they need is a bike rack.
Correct. Zoning and coding in Slatington hasn't been updated in 40, 50 years. They have a new zoning and coding officer. It's been there less time than I've been, 6 or 8 months, but she's making headway. And I've spoke with her about a lot of these things, and we're looking into a lot of these issues where right now you're not allowed to have anything on the sidewalks. No, you couldn't put a bike rack. So we're looking into updating all that so that we can do that. I'm a part of the Main Street Merchants up there, which is led by the Chamber and a whole bunch of business owners. And they're starting to put the "We'll fill your water bottle" stickers in their windows, and we're starting to really
Oh,
work
nice.
together to get people in there. And there's empty shops too. So to talk on your point, we're hoping to fill some of those empty shops with. We're not going to get a steel manufacturer up in that area. We're going to get. It's a bedroom community. We're going to get shops and cafes and amenities that will curtail to the trails, because that's who we see. That's what we got. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Oh yeah.
I've
Microbreweries.
said this 1,000 times, but I really mean this. I've heard this because I talked to Mike Sturgeon, and I felt that my own there's a change in geographics.
Mhm.
People, the second question being asked
Yep.
is where are the trails, where are the bike trails, where are the kayak trails, not where are the movie theaters.
Mhm.
That is, people say I'm making that up. That's the truth. I can't
Absolutely.
make that stuff up. And I think it benefits for us to go down and go
mentioned, the the DNL Trail Towns program, the next steps for that are to have bike-friendly business like categories so that they can, check check off 5 of these 10 things and you'd be a bike-friendly business type of, and give them the process sort of. And then also through Wildlands Conservancy and many of all partners, Brian and Mike, and we're the DNL just recently contracted with Plunk and Milan out of Allentown, a marketing firm, to put together, do some discovery phase, but then put together a marketing and branding strategy for the Lehigh Valley Trail Network for the 2 counties, and Mike Starshik's involved.
Yep.
So we'll definitely, they're just doing stakeholder interviews now. We'll do the public meetings shortly, and we're really excited about that because so many of us are working to promote trails, and if we can all be singing from the same sheet of music for the whole region, it'll start to, so that we're ready for the connections and the overnight visitors even more than we already are.
I can tell you also, and this is the last time I see this, there's a gentleman named Elias Heathcliff, owns Genesis Bikes.
Oh, yeah.
He is a huge, just tell him who's my old neighbor, who's friends with you.
Okay.
His name's Elias, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Genesis Bikes, they are a huge promoter of, not just for East, but for the Lehigh Valley, for biking and trail work, things of that nature. And they do more than just sell bikes, they do every other thing. So,
Yeah, there's the Thursday night family bike ride that they take out. Yeah, it's
so, just things that may add to what you're trying to accomplish with your first year.
Yep.
Those of us that are retired have time to do things, to see things, we can pass that on to the next generation.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Major meeting.
you did.
Any other questions?
I'm just sorry you spent all the time putting your slideshow together.
Yep, there you go.
All right, so I guess
So,
There were some like things on there I wanted to say.
yep.
Yeah, it's on the hard drive of this computer,
Yeah.
so. Yep.
recommendation for full approval later this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I know we kind of talked about it a couple times now, but the amend the resolution 55-215, 2015.
Yeah, that should have actually just been combined together, but
Yeah.
it's fine. I was rushing to get Linda stuff, and we made it work, though. Okay, good.
So I guess we don't need to explain this anymore, right? So recommendation to move. Yeah. No, I think we all understand it. If we save money, we're going to take it back and give it out again. Okay. Recommendation to move forward? You're not even on there.
I recommend, I
Yeah. All right.
can't. John, you know, I think.
All right. Open space program updates.
Well, I think the 2 that went before me gave you a bunch of updates already, so. But there is a couple things that I want to tie in that they didn't really talk about. Mike Cookitz is the Lehigh Valley's first circuit rider through DCNR. What that is a program that helps get directors into communities that are lower income or multi-municipal as a 5-year program. And over those 5 years, he works to build up his salary and the organization's funds, while DCNR's funding at the 100% level at the first year dwindles over those next 5 years. So we haven't had one in the Lehigh Valley ever. So he's actually the first one, and he's doing a great job putting all that together. What Lauren was talking about with the corridor study from like the Allentown Riverfront up to the 329 Cementon area is being run through LVPC with Penn Praxis. So it's the University of Penn. Their professors have to do work. So instead of writing theses and things like that, those landscape architects, engineers, they actually do planning in communities, and that's where they're bringing their expertise to do this kind of study. So it's a pretty unique opportunity for us to have that expert level here and in it. I believe it'll be about a year-long process for them to do it. But they've done stuff like the High Line in New York City. They've done an entire neighborhood in the Bronx. They've done stuff for the Schuylkill River Trail, Schuylkill Banks in Philadelphia. So those are like those high-level things that we really get to see, and we'll see that over the next year. Leading from last month, we had a great visit with Secretary Dunn. She's the DCNR secretary. She came into town. She toured Northampton County. She started up at Lehigh Gap Nature Center. We went down to the Slatington Trailhead, met Mike there, and then we ran over to Jacobsburg, had a really good event and meeting there with about 20 to 30 some people. And then we had dinner with her down in Easton. And then the next day she was down at Humor Park. I wasn't there, but then she went to Allentown and then out to Wildlands.
The waterfront development.
Yeah.
And
But she was, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you weren't around.
What kind of
either.
excuse is that?
But she was very impressed of what is going on here in the Lehigh Valley with our trail systems, our recreation opportunities. So it was great to see that, and our communication back and forth with some of her staff, how they can help us and involve some of the programs that we're doing now. So hopefully that'll transform over the next year to do some of those things.
Is that waterfront development that they're doing, is that going to be directly connected right to the trails down there?
Yeah. So I don't know. If,
we'll run
yeah.
through it.
That's yeah.
Parts of it will be a road width trail, and not an on-road route, but a separate trail parallel, and other parts will be separate trails right on the waterfront and off the road.
And then there's 9 bridges in between or something, trestles and bridges that.
Yes, from
There's a-
329 down to Hamilton, just picture how many bridges cross the river
Yeah.
there, and they all will cross the trail on both sides of the river, so that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah. So it was great to have her in town and her staff, and to see the work that we're doing. She was really interested in Mincy. She wants to come back and see that. So there's another great opportunity maybe we can make something happen with. The Northern Tier Trail, we had our second steering committee, second or third, I forget which one it is now, today. And some of the things we went over was looking at like the hubs and spokes. What are areas along this 30-mile corridor of trail that we really want to focus in on, that we have to get to? The small historic towns like Danielsville, Berlinsville, to our other boroughs that are established like Bangor and Wind Gap and Penargil, and then out to our recreational areas like Mincy or the community park in Moore Township or Canal Park in Walnutport and the rivers. So that was kind of something that they wanted to pull together. We wanted to pull together the name. There was a couple ideas floated out, and we finalized it with keeping it as the Northern Tier Trail, so we can move forward with that. And it's great timing because next week is the state PA or the state Greenways and Trails Conference in Reading, and then on Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday night is the Geotourism Conference in Hawley, PA. So it's fresh in everyone's mind. We can go out and keep talking about this, and they can bring great ideas back. One of the things I want to talk to you, I talked to Matt a little bit about, is the contract that we have with Gilmore Associates and Campbell Thomas for the Northern Tier Trail feasibility study was $58,000 and some odd change. That was the actual contractual price. The resolution that goes to that is up to $60,000. We have an opportunity to use their resources to do some conceptual work and cost estimates at Mincy Lake itself, which is along the corridor. Do we need to come back in and amend the resolution to go above? It's a $4,000 commitment that we're going to go for. So either through the contract amendment, we can go 10% up above, or up to 10% of the original contract. But since it's tied to Act 13 funds, do you want us to come back in to do an amendment to the resolution to include that $4,000 into that?
I would think we should, and I don't see any problem.
That's fine.
You know,
I don't
go,
think there won't be any problem getting.
yeah.
We just want to make sure for
Sure.
accounting and you guys that everything is clear and precise, and so that's fine. I'll work with Linda to get that, and maybe at the next meeting we can get that there. So that's not a problem. I just wanted to get through that. Claire talked a little bit about the Lehigh Valley Trail Network, and this is it's something I think the Lehigh Valley has been needing for a long time. We have water trails, we have land trails, we have 5 large regional trails that are over 150 miles that come right to the Lehigh Valley and then go out. So we have the circuit, which is like the Philadelphia area and the 9 counties around it that identify themselves. They have projects in queue. So when they go to foundations, state grants, federal grants, they have all of this in line, and it's one major priority, and that's what we're looking to do here. So when they say the circuit, everyone knows exactly Philadelphia and the surrounding. When we come up with this brand for the Lehigh Valley Trail System, that's going to be the opportunity that we'll be able to do. And then that ties into what Mike was doing with DNL up in Walnut. And I'm glad you said reach out to Tim and Mark, because we're already doing that.
We sit on the committee.
I know.
We know what goes through,
So I know, it's good. But no, we want to talk about that.
I'll tell you next time there.
No, that's fine. But we have the same idea. We're building a lot of these trails, but how do these small communities, how are they going to be affected, but also how can they expand and take the opportunity that they can do there? So signage and beautification is just one small step in that whole entire thing. So we're going to be looking at combining forces and trying to come up with a plan that we can take to all of our smaller boroughs that are along the trail systems, which pretty much all of them are going to be connected now throughout the county.
Now that you bring that up,
Sure.
okay, sorry.
You can ask John. Oh, okay.
Okay. When you talk about signage, you think, would it be worthwhile to bundle some of these?
Definitely.
They're doing that.
They're already doing that? I didn't know. Just dumb question.
Well, and that
No.
kind of comes out of the marketing for the whole system, the Lehigh Valley system itself. So we have like the DNL Trail, we have the Norbath Trail, we got the Two Rivers. Everyone kind of wants to do their own, but now under that big umbrella, we'll still have them be able to identify their own sections of trails, but it'll be one large system. But doing some signage plans, like for a couple towns all together in one bundle, that makes a lot more
And
sense.
the signage would be consistent so that when you see it, it's under the umbrella of this is the signage
Right.
that goes to these parks.
Yeah, so one of the things they're talking about today was like the same, font, the same size, but like Northampton was like the black and orange, and so you would identify what town you're in,
Right.
or something.
We'd like some parts of it to have that consistency, but for each trail to still have their flavor within the network, so that
You
they
know how
have their
people
character.
hold on to their colors.
Yeah.
Exactly, so,
I don't.
that's, we
Well-
definitely want, and a lot of these trails, like the 9/11 Memorial Trail is co-aligned over multiple trails. We don't want to lose that, but we don't want to lose the trails that it has co-aligned with. So finding ways to identify that you're on, again, it's not your turn right now, that you're on the DNL and the 9/11 and the Two Rivers Trailway or something like that. So you're on all three at the same time, and then directional signs that show when they split. Because right now they're splits, but there's not a whole lot of signage as to take a right here if you want to go to Bath, and take a right left here if you want to go, and we don't have all of that. So we want to make sure before it all starts to go in, that we try to get that cohesiveness. We're
Yeah.
trying as quick as we can so we
Right.
stay ahead of the curve, but.
Yeah, and of course you definitely want where all the signs, where the trails are together. You want all three signs together so that you don't think you're walking the 9/11 and all of a sudden you see the DNL and you think, oh, where'd I make a wrong turn at? Or so you realize that they're all together.
Just saw where a guy was following the GPS and went down along with
I saw that, yeah.
destroyed it. Seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah, tractor trailer.
yeah, yeah.
Even people do, so signage is.
And didn't someone end up in the river recently too? Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what's up? One of our, what's that called? Stone, what are those trails we paid for?
Cobblestone?
No, the road to stone gravel.
Yeah.
Oh, triple. Oh, yeah.
You like that?
Sure. But yeah, that's a component that we want to look at signage, major trailhead locations to accommodate large parking, smaller parking. Working with the AT, they don't like or really allow large groups to go up, and it's kind of a single use type of thing. So kind of getting trailheads in the area that if we are going to connect to the AT, we can make the break for it. So anyone that's riding bike, you really can't ride bike, you can't do equestrian on the AT. They'll have the opportunity to kind of get up into the mountains and then come back down. But the user of the AT can have that transparency of coming down out of the mountains, hitting the trailhead that might have more people at it, and then getting into town like Wingate and going to use the businesses and supermarkets and things like that. So it kind of breaks it up. But those are all things that we're looking at comprehensively, and along the northern tier, but also throughout the entire county. So we really want to coordinate all of that in the right way to make it move forward. The Norbath Trail on the eastern section running through Keystone Cement, we are about 99% finished with the easements now after about 9 years. So that's like a breakthrough moment. We had a goal to get the trail completed by 2020, and just getting through the easement portion of it is probably the best thing that we can move forward with right now. But we're looking at hiring an engineer to help design it right now, and hopefully we can even go for DCNR funds to get construction in 18 or 19, depending on how much that is. The only other really,
Right, yes, like that.
yeah.
So 10% of that little space between Jacksonville Road and Mill Street is still under negotiation?
No, so from Jacksonville Road out to pretty much just below the storage plant is an area that we did a land swap with Keystone Cement back in the day because they wanted a trans line to go through own land that we have through the federal government through Land and Water Conservation Fund. So everything has to be. They had to do appraisals. We had to make sure that the land was given at a higher cash or recreational value. Then it gets run through DCNR, and then it has to go up to the Department of Interior through the National Park Service. They review it. When they reviewed it, there were some things that wanted changed, so we had to go back and
90% done, getting to 100% done.
the signatures are about to be signed. So
Like 10% of the land that was
no, all the land's been done, all the plans have been done, the appraisals have been done. We're literally signing the easements, hopefully in the next week, until they go back and forth from the lawyers. So, that'll be really, really neat. Finally. So we heard a lot about the trails. The only other thing that I can really hit on, Mincy, the Friends of Mincy Lake's been really upcoming, getting their stuff together. They have pamphlets out. They're going to be going out, hitting up some of the local sportsmen's associations for funding. They have a meeting tonight to go over some of this stuff. But I think they were there last night as well. Gordon or Jim talked about it at the Citizens Academy. So,
There's still, is there yet with the EPA? No, is that okay?
for
Just, there was construction, the dam.
that's through Fish and Boat, and they're still getting their permits from DEP.
They're still waiting.
Yeah, so they can't even put it out to bid yet. Is one of the reasons we were going to go for an LSA grant, Monroe County LSA grant this past round, but with the timing, we were going to go for ADA kayak launch, an ADA fishing pier, and a bridge to connect both parking lots. They don't even have it out to bid, so for us to say it's project ready or get cost estimates ready and things, we don't think it's feasible. So we're going to get our act together to maybe start with a DCNR grant in April of 2018, and then use those as matches to go for other grants throughout the next year or two. So it was just a little bit too much before they could even get started. So why would we hold things in that might not even get worked on for another 3 years? We didn't want to go down that route. Good. Jim Wilson? Yeah. Good. The only other thing that I have is the Golf Farm. We have to do title research, and we're in conjunction, in partnership with Plainfield Township on this project. So theirs was a rail bed that they purchased, and anyone that you ask if you do title research on rail beds, you might as well just jump in the deep end of a pool with a cinder block on your So Dave Backenstow is actually our solicitor and Plainfield Township's. He's working on this. After he feels comfortable writing off the title search on that, we can send it back to DCNR for the approval to move forward, and then it'll go out to bid. So hopefully in the next month or two we'll have that up to you guys to put out, and then we'll go from there. So.
And then the other thing that Brian and I were talking about are the municipal the municipal grants, of course, we're coming up to the end, another week or so to get the rest of them. And we think there'll be, like 4, if all the requests come in
Yeah.
that are at least being spoken of, there still will be 400 and some left over, and there could be even more. I know we had talked about rolling it into one of the county park programs. Something we talked about was maybe putting it in the Mincy or something in there, because obviously it's a short window we have of it actually, being drained and being able to do stuff. So, at least a portion of it or all of it to go up there. So, no projects specifically in mind yet, but it may be.
We have projects.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
But we
not-
don't know what the funding levels
Yeah.
are going to be from that municipal park grant.
Sure,
So-
yeah. But, so I don't know what you guys think about, I know we did talk about rolling it over to the county parks, but obviously with it being drained, there's a window of opportunity up there that might not be there in a couple of years.
Yeah, I guess I'll just answer that somehow. I'll try to answer that. The question is going to be, do we need a budget amendment in order to make it possible? And I think the answer is absolutely we will. I think we budget like $1 million a year for the municipal park program. If you believe that at the end of the application period that we don't meet that $1 million, there would be an opportunity for a budget amendment, but it would have to be done pretty quickly.
Sure.
If you want to use and lock in funding from this year. Otherwise, the consideration would be, because we're not doing the municipal park program next year, it was not renewed. That's a consideration, is to, use funding that would have been part of the municipal park program towards that.
Okay.
So
Up to you.
accounting-wise, what happens at the end of this year when the program ends, if there's 400 or 500 left over, does it just roll back into the general fund? Or so we'd have to reallocate it out again, or does it sit into?
Projects that have been approved, I believe the charter has a 3-year window.
Yeah, but so, I mean,
We've run into
right.
that.
Yeah, I mean, ones that aren't
But
claimed.
money that's lost by the municipalities, and it would come back into the general fund.
And so it'd be reallocated out to put into something like Mincy then?
Throw this out. I'm not sure if we do come up with a windfall more than we expect. I want you to keep in mind the farmland preservation gap we addressed. Which falls into the $100,000.
Well, I only want to say that there ended up not being a gap, but
That's right. I'm pointing, so we remember.
sure.
You have some kind of maximum amount of money left over.
Sure.
So I'll know at the end of September, depending on what grants come in, and then we can have more serious conversations.
Yeah.
after that.
So, yeah, so just something to think about, like I said, I know we talked about in county parks, Mincy, whether we split it up or do something, but I do think it may be worthwhile to at least put something up at Mincy while the opportunity is there, in 2 years when it's filled back up, we can look back and say it's going to be more expensive to do something to it, or we wish we would have, or something, so.
And they,
No, yeah, it's, but
In terms of how we've gone out of our way now, we're doing a good job of it, I believe, to make sure that we're trying to reach not just one section, we're trying to cover a lot of people, even if it's a minimum amount.
sure.
And I just popped into my mind that, well, we don't have to put the budget, it gives us more leverage.
When does the budget amendment have to be in?
Yeah,
Will we,
Budget comes out October 3rd.
so the budget amendment for this
budget
year?
amendments for this year that we still will have another
They will be
one.
coming probably in the first or second week of October, the budget from Duran. The budget amendments from
We
Duran.
can make our own, but they have.
But there's only 2 windows, isn't there a certain time we can do it in, or no?
There's
Oh,
only
oh.
2 budget
We can do
amendments.
budget amendments.
This will be the second budget amendment for this year coming up in October.
We can have budget amendments as we see fit, unless there's two prescribed, I understand, yes, to make sure that we marry up with the state money. But I'd be surprised, and I don't have it, but I'm book in front of me, but generally the county council can, budget amendments as they see fit. And that's our purview, that's what we do. So we're not locked in to those that the grant generates. We do it with them.
Right. So I'm just saying, so we can get the budget from the administration, and then, which will be right after the close of that. Obviously, he's not going to have the answer before. So either in end of October or November, we could make an amendment to say what's left over out of there and decide where to allocate it from.
Yeah, my question is, we did allocate money under livable landscapes that gives you a lot of flexibility. Has all of that funding been accounted for, or is this something you could spend there?
There's roughly, I want to say, 18,000 left in that fund right now. We've been using that for some of the trail projects, some of the, like the 9/11 signage. We actually allocated some of those funds for a project in the Environmental Services Assistance Grant Program. So that has been used pretty heavily throughout the year.
And if we set it back out to livable landscapes, or at least part of it, it could still go to like a Mincy program or something. Yeah, okay.
Then that's a possibility,
Yeah.
just to transfer that money. So,
Yeah, no, that's good. All right. Is that it then?
Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Anybody else have any?
just one quick question. There was as I brought this up yesterday, the state budget has not yet been completed, and I guess I saw that they're looking at going after some of the funds that are sitting around that haven't been used. Does that affect any of the programs that
Definitely.
you do?
A lot of the programs. Mike's Circuit Rider program would probably actually want to be one of the things that get cut. The grants that we do through the Municipal Park Grant, the local, the county, and state, we've given 2-to-1 match. So most of those matches come from state grants through DCNR. We have grants in play right now. $300,000 for Norbath Trail improvements. We have a DEP grant that's $80,000 for engineering and design of stream restoration work down at Archibald Johnston. We have $72,000 worth of grants that are all, and these are just this year that we applied for in DCNR for park signage, overall consistency in our parks. The Golf Farm was part of the DCNR grants.
All of the Lehigh Valley Greenways Mini Grant funds are through those grants that have been
Right.
awarded out, and all of the Greenways support, and up a lot of our DNL trail funding and yeah. We're watching it and trying to do what we can as quick as possible.
Now, if you've already allocated it to a project, that
See, that's where I'm not fully sure about how that's going to happen. So
Yeah.
I hear both ends, that the money for projects that have been awarded will stay there. And I've heard the exact opposite, that money would be taken away. So I don't know exactly. I hear from both sides. I can't say it is or isn't. But if they come and ask, say, have you been successful or have projects been funded and have they been denied? Yeah, they have been denied because, let's say, there was a $100 million budget for DCNR grants throughout the state. I know that they have well over excess of requests for those types of grants. So there's always that shortfall. So some of the argument of there's not or the funds are there but they're not giving it out for approval, I think that's false. We've been pretty successful just because we do show the local and county match to the state. There's not many counties that actually do that. And I think that's one of the reasons that we've been successful getting more money into our local communities. So, yeah, it does directly affect everything we do. Yeah.
$700 million deficit next year, you have significant damage affects transportation, recreation, public safety, and environmental programs.
And that's everything that this livable landscapes and open space and farmland and all of it.
And direct.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So you have to spend starting tonight.
go write some checks. That's good.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for all your work, Brian. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
Thank you.
And you guys as well. Thank you. Hey,
Lauren was like, I'm going and why don't you come and I'll answer questions.
I'm all for bringing kids along. So, like, Brian had to deal with me bringing kids out on the tours and stuff.
All right, thank you, everyone. See you. Thanks, you too. I was thinking about going up because I think that might be like the first or second weekend of opening Archie. Yeah. I haven't been up to that yet, but I hear it's like fantastic.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so you guys